everybody, this is dkdynamite, and after 9 long attempts of Outbreak's new main Easter egg with crashing, disconnecting, losing players, and insta-downs, I have finally beaten it. So it took about a half a day off after the launch of Season 3 Reloaded to calmly get this done and prepare a Juicer Zombies video here on Friday night. We're going to be talking about Treyarch's new teasers for the rest of the DLC season, a recap of Outbreak's main Easter egg story, plus new developments about the Accursed one and even Eddie. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and let me know quickly in the comments, have you beaten the main quest on Outbreak just yet, or are you not going to give this one a go? I know it's being regarded as one of the more difficult quests Treyarch has ever done, but with the right team and the right strategy, you can definitely get through this, and we'll be talking more about my strategy later in tonight's video. Also, feel free to refer to the timestamps down below in the description. Real quickly, Treyarch dropped a new update in Black Ops Cold War today, bringing back multi-team elimination and the Fire Team Mosh Pit. They've added custom mods for dual-wield pistols. Raygun standard ammo count has been increased, so yes, the nerf that the Raygun got has been reverted. Classic hit marker and headshot sound options were added in, along with zombie stability fixes, challenge fixes, and double XP weekend has begun as of today. It'll last until Monday afternoon. So let me know, right? Have you even tried Fireteam Elimination yet? I've been playing quite a bit of it, and it's getting addicting. So if you've seen gameplay of that in a lot of future videos, including one that I have planned for tomorrow. But starting off with a storyline recap of what is going on with Outbreak's main Easter egg. People out there haven't been really paying attention, and it's a shame, but I think lads out there like Eric Maynard, Kaljitsu, they're doing a great job with getting people interested. They've also created a new Lorecast Discord, which I've linked down below in the description. It's gonna go through everything going on in the Dark Aether storyline right now. Not relying on nostalgia, talking about cringe from the past or storylines that have ended, but talking about the future. So with this first main quest in Outbreak, Operation Inversion has seemingly been stopped, but Valentina was the cause of this. So she actually personally leaked the blueprint for the communicator that we used to speak to Samantha to Ravanov, with the hope that he would do exactly what he did, and essentially setting up a diversion so that she can enact her plan over in Berlin. We'll get to that later on. So the reason why is because Kravchenko has been leaked secret information about the Accursed one in the Dark Aether right now, and only the director of Requiem knows about the Accursed one. So that likely is dealing with the mole, which is supposedly Carver, and we've talked about that on the podcast before. If Carver is the mole in Requiem feeding Kravchenko information, that's leading to a big plot twist in maybe the second Outbreak Easter egg, or even Berlin later on. So with that being said, Kravchenko was loosely told about a bigger threat, which is the Accursed one, who Kravchenko is trying to step up and defeat personally. Now, in terms of what Kravchenko's role is going to be in the future of the zombie season is unknown. If Black Ops 2's campaign is still canon, it's still a bit of a question mark. But if it is, then he's gonna end up in Afghanistan at some point and will survive this Zombies DLC story. But you never know what plans Treyarch has up their sleeve with this. Now, Kravchenko took control of Operation Inversion because he figured they had to first focus on finding and destroying the evil that he now knows about in the Dark Aether before taking on the West over here in the Cold War. So Berlin is looking to be like a real juicy Zombies experience. And like I said, if that turns out to be an action-packed one with a great main quest, good side Easter eggs, you know, some epic boss fight, then the worth will be worth it. Wait will be worth it. Can't even speak after all the Outbreak attempts that I've been doing the past day. So with that, I think Berlin could be the end-all say-all. Could be the last actual round-based map in Black Ops Cold War. They could drop some other experience like Outbreak in Season 5, Season 6 Reloaded, but still keeping our fingers crossed for at least one more round-based map after Berlin, which could have been teased already by the Wonder Fizz machine, since we only get new perks whenever a new map drops, and there's 3 more perks left. So could they drop 2 perks in the Wonder Fizz by themselves, and then 1 new perk machine, which is double tap over in Berlin later? You never know what their plan is with that. But don't forget, Season 4 is going to be heavily based just around zombies. I mean, wait till we see the roadmap for the next season. I can bet you there's going to be quite a bit just for zombies fans out there. I mean, we have the second main quest for Outbreak. We're going to get Berlin, the next round-based experience in Reloaded. I mean, there's quite a bit just for zombies alone. And I could say it'll arguably be one of the biggest zombies content drops that we've had since, I want to say, Zombies Chronicles and a couple of updates that we got maybe during the end of Black Ops 4. Zombies hasn't really seen a massive update like that with 2 different experiences in a single season. The storyline of the Outbreak main quest has been real juicy so far. So we've stopped Operation Inversion, sent the rockets to the Pacific Ocean, so that could lead to something too. I mean, could we end up getting an Atlantis Zombies experience now that we've sent those rockets over there? Or will they just sit there in the ocean, explode, and cause some type of anomaly that leads to something else? I mean, there's a theory going around right now that maybe this explains how the Vodianoy ship ended up in Verdansk 2020, right? The ship itself was quote-unquote lost at sea in the 1980s, but somehow washed up on the shore of Verdansk in 2020. And it was a bit strange, right? How did it just end up out of nowhere? And it was moving too in that little cutscene cinematic we got for, I think it was, what, the beginning of Season 2? So that could be connected. I mean, the Vodianoy ship wasn't exactly in the Pacific Ocean. It was a little bit farther from that, but could that be a tie-in towards Zombies in Warzone? For those out there saying they shouldn't be crossing over Zombies in Warzone, let me remind you that everything is connected as of now. Black Ops, Modern Warfare, Campaign, Multiplayer, and Zombies. Everything is interconnected at the moment. It's just a matter of time when Call of Duty releases an official timeline explaining how the continuity makes sense, hoping we get that before the release of the next Call of Duty. If Sledgehammer's game ends up being tied in as well, you never know. Now, in case you guys forgot, only Valentina knows that Nazis were sent into the Dark Aether during World War II, and with that being said, we see that in the Machina intro cutscene, the Nazis went in there looking for knowledge, power, energy to gain an advantage over the Allies to win the war, but that probably didn't work out too well. I'm assuming that by now they've turned into zombies, other creatures, and when they come out, it's not going to be pretty. So Valentina has a secret plan which essentially double crosses Omega to go to Berlin and open up her own gateway to resurrect the Nazis and bring them into the real world. And there you go, it's an outbreak all around the damn world itself. Kravchenko doesn't know about that though. He doesn't know about the Nazis being stuck in there, so that's why Valentina had sent a leak, right? Some Call of Duty leaks to Ravanov himself to distract both groups to buy herself more time to get that plan enacted. With Valentina herself, she made it seem like we've beaten Omega with the Outbreak main quest, but we actually didn't. We've just bought her more time, so she's getting exactly what she wanted after the main quest of Outbreak. Now, it's worth noting that new intel does confirm the task force that was sent into the Dark Aether, the Nazis, were known as Task Force Balder. If you played God of War PS4, you'll know that the character Balder did warn you that if you killed him, you would enact Ragnarok. And we know that both Craig Hughes and Jason Blundell loved mythology back during Black Ops 4. That's where the Chaos story came from. So it's a bit of a nod to that by calling this Nazi group Task Force Balder. Again, God tier writing by Craig. And it's what Craig probably meant when he said a couple of months ago, we're going to look back at the story in a few months and say, I quote, I didn't see that coming. So if Task Force Balder does come out of Dark Aether and gets killed or interfered with, this could cause a chain of events to take place like Ragnarok that could lead to some unexpected story. And I'm looking forward to that. I think there's some real rich story going on behind the scenes that needs to be looked into a lot more by the community. I think this is something that's far beyond what we saw in the past with the original Aether storyline. So who knows what Task Force Balder is cooking up? Who knows if they're still alive? Who knows what they turned into? We'll end up finding that out over in Berlin. Now, we also know Valentina was talking to somebody by the name of Vogel. Vogel was revealed to be her father in new intel that was discovered. So the fact that Vogel's talking to her, we're like, all right, you know, a father-daughter reunion, but that's not the case. You know about Vogel from Die Machina, but he's not currently alive right now. It's the Accursed one who went ahead and impersonated himself as Vogel to communicate with Valentina, almost manipulating her to then release him at some point when she enacts her plan, resurrecting the Nazis, releasing the Accursed one. There is a big storyline going on behind the scenes that neither Omega and Requiem are too knowledgeable about, so that's pretty spicy. We also have two new ciphers that were solved, which I think you guys are going to like. The first one is the R cipher. Colonel, this threat is real. The entity hides in the darkest depths of the Dark Aether. It is waiting for its moment to enter our world and to consume it. As it is shown why it seeks to manipulate us, because only we can let it in. Unless we can stop it, it will be our end. I will reach out later. Requiem will have noticed my absence by now. So presumably, this is from the director of Requiem. So what is he cooking up? And it leads to the J cipher. The J cipher is, Elizabeth, there is a new directive coming and I wanted you to hear it from me first. Perhaps it will help spare you initial shock. When you are informed in person, there is a new project in development that will require a great deal of our Ethereum reserves. Unfortunately, this means some of your research will be put on hold indefinitely. You are not the only one affected by this. I have been informed that half of all future Ethereum harvest recovered from my extraction rockets will also be diverted to this project. Now I want to leave you with the question, be very careful who you mention this to and what do you know about Project Janus. So taking a look at the definition of Janus, it stands for God of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, and ending. And the word duality does strike some importance to me because we resolved the duality in the Taggertoe and Easter egg by combining Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man. So could that be a connection here? And if so, why is the director so interested in opening up his own gateway to the Dark Aether without telling anybody else about it? I mean, if Carver finds out about the director's plan and the director's own agenda to go in Dark Aether himself, then you know Kravchenko's gonna know about that in no time, since Carver, of course, is the mole at the end of the day. So what could the director be up to? What does this cipher actually mean in the long long run? And why is the identity of the director being kept so hidden? Could it be Eddie? I will say right now, it's plausible, don't get me wrong, you know, this big reveal at the end of DLC 3 or DLC 4 where Eddie stepped out of the shadows and he was pulling the strings the entire time. It could work, but if Craig said that we're gonna look back at the story in a few months and say we didn't see that coming, that wouldn't really fit the bill, right? Because right now most of the community does think the director is Eddie, so we would see that coming in that sense. Hopefully it's not too predictable, but the Requiem does have his own agenda that may end up crossing paths, if not conflicting with what's going on with Weaver, and then Omega, Valentina. We kind of have 4 different plots going on at once, and I love that. There's just so much to talk about with the future of Dark Aether. Hopefully you guys are getting more interested in this story as time goes on. I know I've definitely been more interested and invested since the intel in Firebase, and now of course with this main quest in Outbreak, but the mention of Project Janus really has me suspicious, right? You know, Craig Houston didn't name it that for nothing, and looking at the definition of the word, I could definitely see this being a bit of a figurative meaning at the end of the day, so we'll see what that ends up meaning in the long run. But right now I picture Berlin to be a hybrid between a round-based map and a bit of a condensed, open-world city-like experience. Think of Shadows of Evil, but with the possibility of seeing civilians being attacked, maybe you could save them, helicopters flying around the city, reporting on this big outbreak in Berlin, maybe giant creatures walking around the city with zombies. I mean, I picture a lot going on here. I mean, you could even take the campaign mission from Call of Duty World at War and kind of adapt that a little bit, you know, remaster it, of course, for Black Ops Cold War's engine, kind of similar to how Gorod Krovi was at one point a World at War campaign mission. They got turned into a full-fledged zombies experience. So let's see what happens with that, but I also wanted to bring up the fact that Washington and New York were rumored zombies maps because they were listed on a map over in Firebase, and as cool as maps like that would be, I even said, you know what if we get multiplayer maps set in Washington or New York and then they become Onslaught experiences, which could explain why they're being referred to on Firebase. But what actually was going on with that is that the rockets for Operation Inversion that Omega had set up were going to target Washington and New York, but now that we've stopped Operation Inversion, that is no longer going to happen. So it seems like we won't be seeing an outbreak in Washington or New York until further notice, but I'll have to see that. Imagine a Washington zombies map, whether at the White House or at the Capitol. Right now in this day and age, it's probably not the right idea to put a zombies experience in those locations, but that would still be cool to see. Imagine Ronald Reagan as an operator, or some fan favorite celebrities or other politicians fighting alongside him, a bit of a spiritual successor to 5. You know, Die Maschine was a bit of a different start to a zombie story. I understand that. It's a bit of a different approach to telling a zombie story. I would say an approach that is more traditional, like we had in World at War, to around Black Ops 2. Black Ops 3 and 4 told a story a bit differently through big cinematics, you know, big quest, but they've gone back to the roots of zombies with using radios, ciphers, and intel as the way to tell a story. So if you're not on board with that, you're really missing out. Trust me when I say that.
I didn't even get my turn.
Tomorrow, Eddie, you get to make the rules. I promise. Come on, Fluffy.
Now I want to touch on something that you may have heard of briefly in my recent podcast when Eric and Cal came on, and that is regarding the actual age of Eddie in this Dark Aether storyline. Craig Houston made it clear that he doesn't want to bring back old characters like Richtofen in the same way that he had them from World at War to Black Ops 4, so what if the twist with Eddie in this game is his actual age? What if when he stepped through the light at the end of Taggart Toe and he didn't actually make it through like Samantha did because he isn't an innocent soul like Samantha is? What if he got stuck in the Dark Aether, or stuck in the past, or stuck somewhere to the point where he holds a grudge against Samantha and a grudge against Requiem or any group that comes across him at some point for essentially leaving him behind? Sam might not remember him either. I mean, we're assuming at this point she doesn't, since he hasn't been mentioned at this point. And with that, maybe it's also possible he looks exactly the same way as he did in the Origins ending cutscene. He hasn't spoke ever since, and maybe he aged wherever he is now. What if he's not actually the director of Requiem? He could be just, you know, a different character with a different purpose that we're not going to be able to see until a later DLC map. So with that, that could eliminate a lot of controversy with Nolan North not returning as Eddie in a future Black Ops Cold War experience. Craig Houston, as mentioned, doesn't want to bring back Richtofen in the same way that he had him before, so that probably means Eddie will be a much different character, whether that means different voice acting or a different age. I mean, if he's still a child, this could essentially do a bit of a flip-flop on how we saw the story back during Black Ops 1, right? Where Samantha was the main antagonist as a child, revealing her in the MPD over on Moon. Now we can get that with Eddie. What if we end up finding him in the Dark Aether in like DLC 4? He's still a child, he's an antagonist, he's evil, working with the Accursed one, could set up a plot for Treyarch's next game. I think that theory is very strong, so if he's still a child, that's gonna blow people's minds in a future Zombies experience. So wait for Eric's video on that. He's gonna go more in depth about how that could work, why it would work, how it makes sense, and I would also say he wants to make videos that essentially have a lot of backing to them, right? With strong evidence, strong theories, strong information. That's something he's working a lot more on right now and should probably post more about in the next few weeks if I had to guess, but keep up on his Twitter as well if you want more updates on some of these real educated theories that have all come true. I mean, if you guys watched Bombcast about a week and a half ago, Eric and Cal came on the podcast, went over dozens of theories for the Outbreak main quest, future of the story, and what do you know, every single one of those came true. They know their shit, they know what they're talking about, they've done their homework, so if you're gonna trust anybody about the storyline, definitely trust them. Now, in terms of what's next for future Zombies maps, experiences, Easter eggs, let's start off with the next Outbreak main quest. So presumably, we're gonna be saving scientists from Omega who want to defect and work with Requiem. Scientists who are like, you know what, I want out of this shit, I don't want to work for Omega. They're gonna go ahead and need to be saved. Probably being held hostage, probably just hiding somewhere that we have to find them in during a zombies outbreak. I mean, let's see where they actually are. Could they be on Duga? Could they be on Alpine, Sanatorium? We know that Ruka played a very large role in this first main quest, so let's see what other region plays a role in the next one. Now, there's intel that was just discovered, and it's brief, but it's between Ravanov and Weaver, and it takes place after the events of the first Outbreak quest, where Ravanov tells Weaver, hey, you know what, we got scientists, they want to leave Omega, they want to defect, they want to come over to Requiem and help us. Weaver's like, hold your horses for a second, I gotta talk to my higher ups before allowing that to happen, and boom, the intel abruptly ends. So that could be a bit of a plot for the second quest of Outbreak, and that sounds great. I mean, saving hostages or discovering some new secrets. I love this whole defect storyline going on here. Again, it's just reminiscing on Black Ops 1, which Black Ops Cold War perfectly picks up on as it's a sequel to the first game, right? It makes perfect sense. In terms of Berlin, though, the next steps for that Easter egg, looking at Valentina's plan, she actually gained access to a device that was made by the same creator of the Ray K over on Firebase Z. This device measures dimensional instability, so it's a bit of a portable portal device, bit of a tongue twister that she can carry around with her, right? A portable device that she can use and open up small gateways to the Dark Aether. So she wants to open up a gateway in Berlin, like I said earlier, to resurrect Nazis, probably bring out the Accursed one. Towards the end of that Easter egg, the Accursed one could come out, and boom, cliffhanger for the potential DLC 4 of Black Ops Cold War Zombies. Now, in terms of what DLC 4 could be, if Berlin is the end-all, say-all, Ragnarok-like Zombies experience, how could they top that in DLC 4, right? Where could we go after that? How do you top that? I think the best bet right now is going into Dark Aether itself, full force, to find someone, save someone, kill the Accursed one. Who knows what that could be, but looking at Black Ops 3, for example, how do they top that phenomenal DLC season? It was, of course, going into Agartha, which unfortunately got corrupted by the Shadow Man, and that's Revelations. I think that was a great way to end that cycle, end that season, I should say, so they might pull a bit of a similar tactic with the ending of Black Ops Cold War Zombies DLC season, but if you have any better ideas as to where we could go after Berlin, leave those comments down below. So, looking at Samantha herself as well, she's been kept a bit captive by Requiem. She isn't allowed to be on the field or to talk to anybody, but she secretly communicated with Ravanov, and that's how the Outbreak main quest works. She communicated with us as well, so that's what happened. I mean, Samantha is not being trusted by Requiem, and that's of course because Carver's playing a role in that, being a mole that he is. So Samantha might go berserk at some point. If something happens to Weaver, who's been like a father figure to her, she's gonna go berserk. She has a love interest, which is Dr. Gray, that got revealed in new intel a couple of weeks ago. So if something happens to either of those characters, she might go berserk. She still has Dark Aether manipulation, she has powers, so what could happen? What can trigger her to just go crazy? I mean, similar to how we looked at her in the Alpha Omega intro, something like that might happen in a future map, right? Could that set up DLC 4 where she goes back to the Dark Aether, or maybe she plays a bit of a main role where she uses her powers to defeat the Accursed one or fight Kravchenko? I'm looking forward to what her future is, because something big is about to happen with her. You know, she's a ticking time bomb right now, no pun intended. Last and definitely not least, when it comes to the main Easter egg quest of Outbreak, let's talk about the steps themselves. I'm not going to do a guide, and I was planning on one at first. I do love making guides, but I think you guys know what happens, right? Usually the smaller guys work the most on their guides, taking the most time to perfect locations, get all the RNG sorted out, get the best explanation out there, just to be overshadowed by a lot of the bigger channels out there that rush their guides and have missing information, so it's almost like, what's the point, right? Why even work on one? But for those out there that got one done and has all the correct information, bravo. I mean, I'm glad people did one. I just couldn't be bothered rushing out a guide just for the sake of making one. It wasn't worth it. I'm glad I saved that discussion for tonight's video that you're watching now. So in terms of the steps themselves, I feel like they cater to casuals in the right way. And what I mean by that is not the boss fight. That requires more strategy that we're going to talk about in a bit. But the steps before that, leading up to the boss, really are replayable and I think very simple to remember after a couple of tries. So let's get something out the way real quickly. You want to make sure that you collect as much salvage and points as possible by doing objectives on waves 1 through 3. You want to have a M16. That is your best friend for the boss fight. So work your ass off to get that max Pack-a-Punch, to get the weapon rarity to legendary, and of course getting yourself level 3 armor along the way. So doing the main objectives and side objectives on the first 3 regions is going to help you out, and with the less players you have in your game, you'll have more points and salvage to go just for you guys. Now you want to then go into round 3 and find a radio and a part. The funny thing about this is that the radio that you have to find on round 3 is a near replica of the radio they introduced about 2 months ago for the side Easter egg dealing with music. So you would find a base radio that's in one location on the map, and there would then be 3 amplifiers nearby that radio. You have to tune the amplifiers to what the main radio is telling you to, and if you have subtitles on, it'll tell you what you have to do. It's very self-explanatory. If the radio says signal 2, signal 5, go to the amplifiers located right nearby and tune them to that same number the main radio is. Subtitles are your best friend for that, and I have a diagram or a map in the description in case you guys don't know what's going on with that. It's very simple. So once you have tuned the amplifiers to the same as the radio, Samantha will talk to you, give you a part, go ahead and grab that. You then want to go to round 4 and find a reel, a film reel that's with 1 of 4 monkey spawns. And it doesn't matter what region you're on, you can do all these steps no matter what region you're at. It is that simple. So with that being said, you'll find 4 monkeys in the same spots in each region. I have a map down below in the description. Very helpful for doing this. So once you shoot the 4 monkeys, one of them will have given you this reel, which you can then bring to a projector that also spawns in 1 location per region. You want to go ahead and play all of the reels in the projector. You'll get briefed on Operation Inversion by Samantha herself, and you get, again, some story insight in case you guys were confused about what's going on in the storyline so far. She then tells you to go to Ruka to go find Ravanov, and funny enough, when you go to the warp station, it'll bring you straight to Ruka, guaranteed every single time after playing with that projector. Once you're at Ruka, there is no main objective, but side Easter eggs will still be available, whether it's an Aether crystal to get a free Aether tool. Definitely do that to upgrade your weapon rarity. It could be a dark Aether chest. It could even be, the dragon. You don't usually get an Orda world encounter during this Ruka stage of the main quest, but hey, if you saw Orda a couple of times before this, maybe take Orda on once or twice, see if you get lucky with some wonder weapons, some Aether tools, or some other special items that you might need for the boss fight. What I'll say too is that wonder weapons aren't necessary. Definitely don't use shotguns. That's definitely a complete waste since you don't have any range, but wonder weapons are a bit of a bonus. If you get them, hey, grab them. If you have some extra points, go ahead and pack it as a nice secondary. But if you don't get them, it's not the end of the world, so keep that in mind. But now when you go over to the elevator, which I had my suspicions about a little while ago, right? It's a bit of a standout type of location here. I always thought they were going to use this for something, and now they did. So go with all players to the elevator, and you'll be taken downstairs to this entire bunker area. Now, one thing I want to say real quickly is that this bunker section of Outbreak is incredibly badass. Could be its own standalone survival map, whether it's round-based or even for Onslaught. It gets hectic down here. Starting on wave 5 of Outbreak, you get these transit super sprinters, so do not stop moving in this little bunker area. Stay by your friends, I mean, even spread out if you guys trust each other, but make sure you guys are relatively understanding of how the layout of this area is, so if somebody goes down, you can get to them real quickly. Be careful with the rappel. People are getting crashes by using it over in this location, so keep that in mind. But this area is incredibly cool. You want to go down to the bottom of floor A, and again, there's 3 different rooms in this bunker, A, B, and D. C isn't accessible. So the bottom of A, you see this green room, interact with that computer, and you'll get about a 2-minute cutscene, which looks very crispy, especially on next-gen consoles. And it's incredible. Ravanov kicking some ass, trying to find Samantha, but then telling Requiem that we have to figure out where the launch keys are for the rockets while he goes and preps the rockets themselves. And that's the last step of the Easter egg, just finding 3 keys. One of them is found through killing a red mimic, very simple. The other one is found by doing a bit of fire team dirty bomb down over here by the canister. So you essentially charge the canister up by shooting dark ether crystals, grabbing the essence that drops from them and bringing them to the canister itself. You then walk that canister to a jellyfish right here by the stairs, do your special stability, and the jellyfish will actually grab you and levitate you in the air, allowing you to then grab that key. And the last key is found by taking it back from Curious George himself. So once you see a blue light, right, that is the monkey in the vent, will be at the bottom of any one of these floors. You want to shoot the monkey first so that you got a quote from Ravanov. And now what you want to do is find an essence trap that has a banana in it. It'll be found in a dead end tunnel with no prompt to pick it up. So stand in this corner by the barrel, hold square to pick up the essence trap. It'll now be in your inventory, and you can throw it as you did back in Firebase. So what you do is essentially stand back from where the monkey is. He could just move around from vent to vent. If you get too close to him, he'll move. So from a distance, throw the essence trap at the bottom of where the vent is, and boom, it'll just capture the monkey, it'll lure him in because of the banana, and you can take the key back. Those are all 3 keys. You now want to go in all 3 rooms, A, B, and D. You go up to one of these computers and you'll see a prompt to initiate the launch sequence, but you never know what the order actually is of which computers you have to hit first, whether it's A, B, and D, could be BAD, DBA. It's trial and error. So I have one player go to each computer and give it a shot, right? It's not that hard whatsoever. Just once you're back with the zombies and the super sprinters, it can be on your ass. Once you hit all 3 computers in the right order, you can then go to the boss fight. Once again, this isn't a full guide on how to do this, but a bit of a recap on what happens in the Easter in case you guys are confused on what exactly is going on. For the boss fight itself, there's a lot to talk about with that. So damage drop off could be an issue. Using range extending barrels instead of the task force on a max packed legendary M16 is the way to go in my opinion. Figured I'd bring that up here in this video, and shotguns and wonder weapons, like I said, are unnecessary. If you want a secondary at all, maybe go for a ray gun, a ray K, even a die electric upgrade from Duga if you can get that. That's a cool secondary to get you out of corners or to help out with the horde a little bit, but it's not necessary. M16 is your best friend for this. Trust me when I say this. I have heard people out there using street sweepers, getting close to the boss himself, doing more damage. That works for you without getting killed, then go for it. But also when it comes to the equipment, so I would say monkeys and decoys are pretty vital. Luckily in the bunker right before boss fight, there is a workbench, there's an armor station. You can get all the shit you need over in that room. So with that, I would definitely recommend at least monkeys or decoys if you could afford either one of them. Decoys are faster to throw, but monkeys will help kill the enemies, which could work out in the long run for you if you got lots of panzers, manglers, megatons, mimics, the works, on top of plenty of zombie spawns with that. Now Ring of Fire is useful just for the sake of being able to shoot for long periods of time without reloading. I'll give it that much. Doesn't give you much of a boost against the Legion or Big Tempest himself, right? You know, shredding his armor right in the middle, and then finally shooting the 3 orbs that spawn that could actually damage him. So there's 3 orbs representing 3 phases of his health. So shooting 1 orb and destroying successfully does get rid of 1/3 of his health bar, in case you guys haven't noticed already here in the gameplay. So I would say if somebody out there runs a healing aura or a frenzy guard that won't hurt, it's probably recommended if you're in a 4-player game. 3 Ring of Fires is enough. 1 player or even 2 that has a different field upgrade could help out in the long run with some of those sticky situations in case you guys get down. So death machines are also okay, a bit of a plus if you have extra salvage to buy them with. You know, the strategy I went with is a bit of a 3-player strategy. So I have 1 player who throws a monkey or decoy, 1 player takes out a death machine, 1 player pops Ring of Fire. Do that all at once and focus on one of the orbs. You'll take it out in a matter of seconds, right? You do lots of damage to him, which works out in the end. So I'd also say while dealing with the Legion himself, get rid of the mimics. They'll pull you in and distract you from what you actually want to do, which is shooting the Legion in the efficient amount of time. You are timed in this boss fight. For whatever reason, the timer begins before you're even able to shoot him. The timer begins, I think, right when you're opening this door to get into the boss fight, which is a bit silly. So I would say if anything is nerfed with this boss fight, it's got to be the timer. I mean, there's no reason for this to be timed at all anyway. The difficulty of this boss fight alone is great. I would say it's on the scale of Mephistopheles. I would say Garrod Krovi with no gobblegums or perks. It's difficult, don't get me wrong, for a casual player. The build up to it is quite simple, very easy to replicate, but I think the setup in Outbreak itself is a bit draining for most players out there. It could take you into a 2-3 hour match depending on how many players you're in your game. So that could be a problem, right? The steps themselves don't take much effort at all, but then this boss fight comes around, and if anything's going to get nerfed with it, it could either be the timer, right? At least pausing it before you actually get to shoot him, or adding time to it after destroying one of his orbs. And then with that, the dogs, right? The dogs are a bit of a problem. They can outpace you with tier 5 stamina up. That shouldn't be happening. And obviously the heavy enemy spam, it's able to be contained, right? If you have monkeys, decoys, distract them a bit, maybe have some wonder weapons, take them out. But mimics are very frustrating, pulling you away from the action against Legion. Panzers could burn you. I mean, I've taken damage from nothing sometimes, so there could be invisible zombies that are glitched in this boss fight, but the difficulty, I think, is at around the level I wanted it to be for a new Zombies Easter egg. I always wanted them to introduce us to a casual type quest like we've gotten in the Machine and Firebase, but with a boss fight that takes multiple tries for lots of teams to actually beat. That's what I wanted, and we pretty much got that. Might need a couple of balancing issues, but it's not the end of the world. People out there are claiming now that it's too hard, it needs to be reverted completely, right? People are asking for some major changes to this. And what I'll say is, look, right, people were complaining about the quest being too easy in the Machine and Firebase. Now they've upped it a couple of notches, people are complaining, so people gotta decide what they want, right? I do agree, there are some balancing issues that have to be looked at a little bit, maybe tweaked a couple of notches, but we don't need a significant change to this boss fight. Difficulty level really makes it worthwhile, makes it feel like an actual Outbreak on a big region, right? If you play this, are you thinking about Ruka from Fireteam, or are you thinking about this massive ass open world Zombies Easter egg? That's what I'm thinking about, right? I don't get Vi's multiplayer at all when playing Outbreak here, especially going into the bunker now with this main quest. There's a lot going on with this, and hopefully you found some of the strategy helpful for defeating this boss. It's a bit of trial and error too, I would say. It takes your team at least an attempt or two to get used to the layout, giving each other some space, understanding the circle getting smaller every time you destroy one of his orbs. And yeah, he gets tougher with each phase. He'll start doing more attacks on you, so get out of his reach if he's gonna throw electricity, debris. Make sure you watch out what's going on with the Legion. But for solo players out there are some good solo guides already on YouTube. I would say it's easier with the less players you have, but with the more experience you have of this boss fight from other attempts or watching this video, it'll be a lot easier for you to replicate the steps and, of course, do your best against the Legion. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. Hopefully you found some of these tips helpful for the Legion boss fight. Hopefully you enjoyed a bit of a recap of not only the story of Cold War Zombies, Dark Aether, you know, the Outbreak main quest, but also a bit of a hint as to what's to come next. Treyarch has some serious plans over on their agenda for, I would say, seasons 4 through 6. We're looking at a big season for zombies in just 3 weeks, right? The second quest on Outbreak and then a whole round-based map probably a few weeks after that. So we have a lot in store. If you guys are complaining about content, then I don't know what game you're playing, I don't know what fucking weed you're smoking, but there's a lot going on for Black Ops Cold War that meets the eye. I really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everyone.